Hello you guys, let's talk about writing and solving proportions. So take a look here where it says proportions. Proportion is an equation that states that two ratios are equivalent. So for example, 2 over 3 is exactly the same as 8 over 12. Now you remember when we used to do zippies, right? Well, we could start at the 3. We'd say 3 goes into 12 4 times and bring that upstairs. 2 times 4 is 8. And so as long as the rule is the same, to get from 3 to 12, you would multiply by 4. To get from 2 to 8, you would multiply by 4. As long as that's the same, then these are what we call a proportion. They're equal fractions. Okay, so take a look at example 1, solving a proportion using equivalent ratios. I like to call those zippies. So I took 3 over 5 equals x over 20 and I put it over here. So start at the 5. 5 goes into 20 4 times, bring that upstairs. 3 times 4 would give us our answer. 3 times 4 is 12. So sometimes they're mental math and they're really easy. We call those zippies. Okay, so let's do the checkpoint, and we're going to use equivalent ratios, so just zippies. If I had 2 over 9 equals x over 27, start at the 9. 9 goes into 27 3 times, bring that upstairs. 2 times 3 would give us our answer of 6, so x equals 6. Take a look at number 2. If I had 5 over 6 equals x over 36. Again, I would start at the 6. 6 goes into 36 6 times. Bring that upstairs. 5 times 6 would give us our answer of 30. X equals 30. Okay, so look at example 2. Another way to solve proportions is using algebra. And this is just like when we would solve any equation. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. If they gave us x over 15 equals 2 over 5. Well, sorry, I would circle the variable and bring down my wall. Take a look at what's touching the circle. See how dividing by 15 is touching the circle? Well, the only way to destroy dividing by 15 is to multiply by 15 on both sides. And so this 15 cancels out the 15 under the x. And so we just get x, and over here I'd write it as 15 over 1 times 2 over 5, and then I'd cross cancel. The 5 and the 15 have a greatest common factor of 5. 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. 15 divided by 5 gives us 3. So 3 times 2 would give us 6, so x equals 6. Now you don't have to check your work as long as you show your work when you're solving it. Okay, so let's use algebra to solve these. So if I had 3 over 7 equals x over 28, the first thing I would do is I'd circle the variable, bring down the wall. See how dividing by 28 is touching the circle. So let's multiply both sides by 28. The 28's cancel out over by the x. Just bring down your x, bring down your equal sign. And over here, the 7 and the 28 cancel out. 7 goes into 28 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12, so x equals 12. Take a look at number 4. 8 over 11 equals x over 55. So with my red, I would circle the variable, bring down the wall. Take a look at what's touching the circle, dividing by 55. So we want to multiply both sides by 55. So the 55's over here by the x strike each other out, bring down the x, bring down the equal sign. 11 goes into 55 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, so x equals 40. Take a look at number 5. X over 8 equals 49 over 56. Well, anytime I see a fraction that I can reduce, I'm going to reduce it first, okay? So that 49 divided by 7 gives me 7. 56 divided by 7 gives me 8. Okay, and then I would circle the variable, bring down the wall, look at what's touching the circle, dividing by 8. So we have to multiply by 8 on both sides of the wall. These 8's strike out, and I just bring down my x, bring down my equal sign. 8 goes into 8 once, and 1 times 7 is just 7, so x equals 7. Take a look at number 6. X over 6 equals 14 over 3. So I use my red and I circle the variable and bring down the wall. I see dividing by 6 is touching the circle, so to destroy it, I have to multiply both sides by 6. 6 divided by 6 leaves us with 1, so I bring down the x, bring down the equal sign. 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 14 is 28, so x equals 28. Okay, look at example 3 with me. The sap of maple trees is used to make maple syrup. To make 1 gallon of maple syrup, it takes 40 gallons of sap. I did not know that, and now I do. Okay, write and solve a proportion to find the number of gallons of maple syrup that can be made from 1,520 gallons of sap. Okay, so first we have to write a proportion. So they suggested that we put the gallons of syrup over the gallons of sap. So I know that to get 1 gallon of syrup, it takes 40 gallons of sap. So I use that to start my proportion. Then I put an equal sign and a fraction bar. And then what I do is, see how there's gallons on top? I put gallons on top of the other fraction. See how sap's on the bottom here? I put sap on the bottom over here. And then I just look at what else they gave me. They told me that we collected 1,520 gallons of sap. So that has to go down in the bottom of my second fraction. And then I put my variable, my x, up on top because I don't know how many gallons of syrup that'll make. Okay, so once I have it set up and I let the labels help me set it up, then I usually drop the labels. Notice how I'll just put 1 over 40 equals x over 1520. And now you can circle the variable, bring down the wall. To get rid of dividing by 1520, we would multiply both sides by 1520. And so the 1520s strike out over here. I brought down the x, I brought down the equal sign. And here I noticed that I struck out the zeros with the yellow. And then I saw that 4 went into 152. So 4 goes into 152 38 times. 38 times 1 is just 38. So x equals 38. So the answer would be I could make about 38 gallons of maple syrup from 1,520 gallons of sap. Okay, now they want us to use the information from example 3. Write and solve a proportion to find the number of gallons of maple syrup that can be made from 1,360 gallons of sap. All right, so again, we have to start off with what we know. They said that you can make about 1 gallon of syrup from 40 gallons of sap. So that's how I started off. Just like I used to start off the scale drawings with a scale, I start off these with the fact that they gave me. Okay, then put an equal sign and a fraction bar. Since we put gallons on top, I put gallons on top over here, and since I put sap on the bottom, I put sap on the bottom over here. And then I look back at the information, and see that 1360? I know it has to go on the bottom because it's talking about the sap. And then I put the x on top. Now once the labels help me set it up, I drop the labels to solve it. So put 1 over 40 equals x over 1360. And now with your red, circle your variable, bring down the wall. Look at what's touching the circle, dividing by 1360. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 1360. Okay, over by the x here, these 1360s cancel each other out to make that invisible 1. So bring down the x. And then here, the 40 ends with a 0, 1360 ends with a 0, so divide by 10, strike out the 0. And then 4 goes into 136 34 times. 34 times 1 is just 34. So x equals 34. So to answer their question, we can make about 34 gallons of maple syrup from 1,360 gallons of sap.